Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into 19th century London,
That's right.
specifically looking at the omnibus, the horse-drawn kind, and how it really kicked off public transport.
It's a fascinating story. We're looking at historical accounts, some analysis too.
And our mission, really, is to unpack its role in shaping London as we started to see it grow.
Well, you have to picture London back then, early 1800s. It was exploding.
Right.
Population just ballooned from about 1 million in 1801 to, over 2.3 million by mid-century.
Wow. And the city itself spreading out like crazy.
8 times the land area. That kind of growth just puts immense pressure on how people get around, created a huge need for mobility.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Before the omnibus, what was it like? Just chaos.
Pretty much. You had narrow streets, pedestrians everywhere, carts, maybe some fancy private carriages.
So mostly walking.
Mostly walking, yeah. River travel was an option, but not many bridges. And hackney coaches, those were expensive.
Like cabs today. Sort of. But pricier.
Exactly. And the short stage coaches were more for longer trips out of town. So for the average person commuting, not really an option.
And as London spread, people lived further from work.
Precisely. New suburbs popping up, but jobs still central. Without affordable transport, the center just got jam-packed.
So the stage was set for something new, something for, well, more people.
Definitely. Which brings us to George Shillibeer.
Okay, the main man. He was a coach builder.
Yes, London-based. And he had seen Stanislas Baudry's service in Paris. Baudry had this idea, fix routes, regular times, pick people up along the way.
Ah, the omnibus concept. Shillibeer actually built vehicles for Baudry, didn't he?
He did. And fun fact, he also built what some call the first school bus.
Ah, okay. So he brings his Paris idea to London.
Yep. July 4th, 1829, launches his first service. Paddington, the Yorkshire Stingo pub, actually out to Bank.
Paddington to Bank. Why that route? Sort of around the edge.
Because the hackney coaches had the monopoly, the licenses, for the very central areas at first. He had to start peripherally.
Got it. And these vehicles, what do they look like?
Big, boxy things. Pulled by 3 horses, side by side. Benches inside, facing each other, holding maybe 20, 22 people.
3 horses. And they ran on a schedule.
Several trips a day, guaranteed times. Plus, uniformed conductors, ex-Navy guys to help people on, take fares.
And they even had newspapers on board. That's quite a service.
Trying to attract a certain clientele, the fare, 1 shilling full journey, 6 pence half, was cheaper than a stagecoach.
It's still not exactly cheap for everyone.
No, definitely not for the working class initially. Your merchants, businessmen, middle-class folks in Paddington, Islington, they were the early adopters.
But it caught on fast.
And the name Omnibus, Latin for all. Any truth to that hat shop story?
Possibly. The Omnibus hat shop in Nantes? Could be. Londoners called them Shillibeers for a bit, too.
But Shillibeer himself didn't last long in the business.
Ironically, no. Competition just exploded. By 1831, 90 omnibuses on that one route. He went bankrupt.
90, just 2 years later. And then the game changed again in 1832 when the hackney monopoly ended in central London.
Ah, so omnibuses could go anywhere then.
Pretty much. The numbers just kept climbing. Maybe 800 or so by 1850.
Which must have meant more chaos.
Oh, yeah. More congestion, definitely. Accidents were a big worry. Drivers racing each other, horses acting up.
Pickpockets, too, you mentioned.
Yeah, targeting queues, people inside. Led to the first rules, ID plates, route colors.
And then more serious regulation later.
The Hackney Carriage Act of 1853. Inspections, passenger limits, lights at night, fares displayed, trying to impose some order.
Makes sense. Did the buses themselves change much?
They got sturdier. Wood mostly, but steel reinforcement later. Better wheels, solid rubber tires started appearing, and suspension improved steel springs instead of leather straps. A bit smoother ride.
And bigger.
Absolutely. The big step was the upper deck, the Imperial. The LGOC, London General Omnibus Company, brought that in around 1856. Doubled capacity.
Right, the double-decker image we know. Though the early top decks were just benches along the middle, right? The knife board?
That's it. Later came the guarding seats, facing forward, much nicer. A typical 2-horse double-decker held about 26 people total.
Getting up there must have been tricky. Those outside stairs.
Mostly men up top, initially. Modesty concerns for women showing ankles on the stairs.
Inside, you said straw on the floor. Basic stuff.
Very basic. Simple handbrakes. Oil lamps inside became mandatory. To stop the bus, you pulled a strap connected to the driver's arm. Later, bells.
It sounds intense. Probably crowded.
Often packed like a sardine can, as the Times put it. Narrow, rickety, dusty, but also this unique social space, different classes rubbing shoulders.
Right, a real mix. What about the workers, drivers, conductors?
Tough gig. Long hours, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week wasn't unheard of. Low pay. Conductors often face pressure to skim fares. Drivers push to keep time, leading to risky driving.
Yeah, that sounds brutal.
Yeah.
You mentioned the LGOC London General. They were key.
Huge. Founded 1855, aiming to consolidate things, like in Paris. By the end of 56, they controlled maybe 75% of London's omnibuses.
Wow, quick consolidation.
And they keep buying rivals. Near monopoly, by 1908, they standardized things, the two-horse double-decker, the red color eventually, route numbers. Massive operation, thousands of horses.
So they brought order, but also massive scale. Who benefited most? Still the middle class.
Primarily, yes, especially early on. It fueled that suburban growth, letting them live further out. It did spread London out along class lines to some extent.
So it changed the city's map, basically.
Yeah.
And daily life.
Completely. Omnibus travel became normal. It connected people to work, shopping, leisure, became part of the London scene.
A symbol of the modern city. All that movement.
Exactly. A social stage, a symbol of progress, maybe, and it laid all the groundwork for mass transit culture.
But horses couldn't last forever. The motor bus arrived.
Late 1890s, early 1900s saw experiments. Then LGOC brought out its B-type in 1910, reliable, mass-produced.
And that was the tipping point.
Pretty much. By 1910, motor buses equaled horse buses in number. The end came fast.
When was the very last one?
LGOC's last regular horse route ended October 1911. The absolute final London service ran August 4th, 1914.
The day Britain declared war.
The very same day. Horses were needed for the war effort. A sudden end.
What a story. So the legacy is massive, really.
Foundational. First proper mass transit for London. Shaped the suburbs. Changed how people lived. Set the pattern for cities everywhere in many ways.
It created that whole idea of the daily commute, the culture of traveling together.
Absolutely. And you see the echoes, don't you? The same issues, congestion, safety, regulation they dealt with then, we still deal with now.
It really laid the tracks, literally and figuratively, for everything that followed.
It did. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah. How are the transport changes happening now, reshaping our cities in ways we might not even see yet?
A good question to ponder.
Indeed. Well, thanks for diving deep with us on the London Omnibus.